Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On the Air with Tim and Ken. Ken, you're back from vacation.
I'm back from vacation. It's good to be back.
I had a
How
couple
was your
days off.
vacation?
It's always nice. I had a couple days off myself. I got a reminder though before we get into any of this stuff. The legal team reached out to me. They said, "Hey, you guys forgot to do disclosures." So real quick, folks, this is for entertainment purposes only. We're just here to have fun. Ken, if you want to add to that disclosure, go right ahead.
No, we're don't bet on anything. Don't invest in anything we suggest. We're just here to, have a little fun and, take your mind off everything that's been going on in the world.
Right. And thanks for watching. Thanks to subscribers, viewers. We appreciate it. And if you want to subscribe, I encourage you to do so. We got some exciting things coming up later this summer for our subscribers. So, all right, Ken. So a lot going on in the world. Sports. We tend to focus on sports. You got Wimbledon. You got golf. You got NASCAR. You got Major League Baseball draft. Major League Baseball All-Star game coming on. You got soccer, tennis. Where do you want to start?
I don't want to start with any of that. Let's start with what we did on vacation.
Okay.
I heard you started off by entertaining our production company, trying to renew our contract.
That's right.
At a sporting event.
Hopefully it worked. Hopefully we get that contract signed and keep the costs down. But no, in all honesty, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I was fortunate enough to attend the Major League Rugby championship game down in Providence a few weeks ago. And I'd never been to a rugby match. I've seen a little bit on TV. Don't know a lot about the rules. It was fascinating. There was a newer stadium down just outside of Providence. And at the game, there were about 5,700 fans, brand new stadium. And it was really, we're in Pawtucket. So if you're familiar with that area, it's really just outside of Providence, a beautiful soccer stadium, only a couple months old. And we were treated to a great championship game. Let me see. It was the New England Free Jacks. They won their consecutive championship game. They beat the Houston SaberCats. It was a great game. It was 28-22. I don't know all the rules of rugby. I've seen it. These guys play hard. If you kind of like soccer and football, go to one of these rugby matches. There are 11 teams throughout the country, scattered throughout from Boston to Seattle and down to Texas. Great competitive game. These guys, we talked to one of the gentlemen that works for the ownership. These guys don't make a lot of money. Their season runs from February to June. They play really tough. They make about $60,000 to $80,000 a year. No pads, a lot of constant contact, constant action. They might get some free housing in there. But these guys would play this game if you paid them. It's a rough sport. The fans were great. The arena was great. It was just a fantastic thing. It was kind of local to me. So I encourage you to take it on. If you can get a chance to go to it or see it, do it.
But the finals were on one of the ESPN channels. They were.
That's
which
right.
I thought was interesting. With you hear so little about it, but now they're getting their name out there, and we're able to get on one of the ESPN channels, which is always good to see. It
was nice to see ESPN2 covered it, as you said. They had a great setup spot there, a great day, good fans, great sport. I think it'll grow. Who knows? They intend to grow it, more teams next year. Expansion. So just another slice of the pie for the entertainment dollar. But the season runs from February to June, so they kind of fill whatever slot was available then, which is not a lot of slot time then, but very competitive. But if you have a chance, get out there, watch it on ESPN2 or try to find a local game. So
that's great. That's interesting. And then I heard you met a guy in New Hampshire that has our dream job.
He does.
That we want.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be up in the White Mountains areas for a few days near Mount Washington and so forth. And there's a little resort in the town of Jackson called Eagle Mountain House. It's a great old classic, 1800s hotel that they brought back to life in a fantastic way. Very accommodating, and they have a nice little 9-hole course there. And like you said, I went over a little pro shop about the size of a shed. Met the local little pro there, Bob McGraw. He told me he's semi-retired. He's from that area. He played collegiate baseball and golf down at Bentley, down outside of Boston. He told me the story. I asked him how'd you get into golf and stick with it. He's, I don't know, he's probably 60-ish or so. And he said, look, I got out of business school. I realized I couldn't wear a suit and tie. And he goes, I have no regrets. I've been in the business of golf my entire life. And he spent a long time on the Cape Cod, had some big courses down there, and he's done a lot for junior golf. He's really promoted the game. But it was really nice the way he treated us and everybody else up there. Nice little 9-hole course. A lot of us, beginners, family, that type of thing. But he made sure that people got out there, moved around pretty quickly, and told you how to get, maybe scoot around a few holes, and made it very accommodating. Just a nice guy, nice experience. So he's got the
and he had a tough schedule, didn't he?
He had a tough
work schedule.
Right. He said to me, he says, Tim, right now I work, he had a big smile. He's like, I work Friday and Saturday, long days, 12 hours or whatever. I work Friday and Saturday. And then on my 5 days off, I get 4 rounds of golf in, and then he's got 1 day to do something else. So he was not complaining. He was a happy guy. I saw him hit the ball. He's got a great golf swing. He can hit the ball. He can still play, and he looked like a good teaching pro. So it was great.
That's what I want to do.
But so if you get out to one of these resorts, whether you play tennis or you're at a beach and you're talking to the lifeguard talk to these people. A lot of them are former collegiate athletes or whatever. They'll tell you what their story is and why they're doing what they do. And just great to hear this stuff.
Work 2 days, play 4 days. That's
good work if you can get
it. That's a better schedule than the president. I think the president works more than 2 days.
It's good work if you can get it, but I can't play that well enough, so I could never do that. So it was good.
And then I heard you ran into an interesting sporting event at Fenway that you saw on TV.
Yeah, it's the rage. It's a new thing. It's the big thing, and the Savannah Bananas. I'm probably the last guy on the planet to hear about them. I caught them on ESPN. They were up here playing at Fenway Park for 2 nights. They sell out. Kind of the story with them is husband and wife team. They own the team. They took the team from a coastal minor league team down in the Carolinas, brought it out on its own, took it in a different direction. Basically, the husband and wife they put everything financially on the up on it. They had a mortgage to their house. They were essentially broke. I read they were $1 million in debt before the first game even started. But the whole thing with this Savannah Bananas is 2 things. It's all about fan experience. Great fan experience. What makes a difference? I got some of the rules here. Let me just go through the rules for this thing. As I try to find my rules here, I know what they do. It's a 2-hour game. Baseball, Major League Baseball, for a lot of folks, it's too long. It's a 2-hour game. The scoring is done by innings. So if you win the inning, you get a point. In the last inning, whatever runs you score adds as a point. Okay. Now, there's other rules going on. There's no walks. If you get ball 4, you keep running the bases. And the way the play stops is every defensive player, other than the pitcher and the catcher, have to touch the ball before they can tag you out. So you can start tearing around the bases, and they got to throw it around and get to you. Makes a lot of fun. They have a golden batter rule, which means at any time that the manager can say, hey, you're my best hitter. You just got up, go hit again in this key spot. Now, what's really other cool is if a fan catches a foul ball, it's an out. Talk about fan participation.
That's great.
Isn't that great? Now the big thing is this. They're kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters. All kinds of crazy things going on. They'll play on stilts. There's music playing. They're doing these dances. But these guys can really play baseball. Watch the game for 10 or 15 minutes. Tons of action, tons of fun. Very affordable unless you're buying your tickets on the resale market. Down in Savannah, these tickets are like $35 a seat, and that includes all concessions. Now, what they do, it's all about the fan experience, total fan experience. They've grown this team now. They're going to expand their little league. Well, I shouldn't say little league. They're going to expand it next year to several more teams, go bigger nationwide. They're going to have a 60-game season and carry this mantra throughout. All about fan experience. It's probably the fastest growing sports or entertainment right now that I can find out there. The revenues grow.
They're selling out these Major League Baseball stadiums. And,
they sold out Clemson University, 80,000,
yeah.
Fenway Park 2 nights in a row. They've sold out 200 consecutive games. Watch it on ESPN2 or YouTube. It sounds a little crazy, but give it 10 or 15 minutes. If you're a baseball purist, these guys are like minor league players or collegiate players. They can really play. So for me, that's what works. The fun is the fun. It's a lot of fun, and they can really play. They're really jazzing up baseball, so I wish them a lot of luck with it. It was just a blast to see. And it's so refreshing to see something like that. I think they're going to be around for a while. They're not just going to fade off. my hat's off to the ownership and what they've done there. It's just great stuff.
That sounds great.
So that's been about me for the past week. I had a great time and saw some sporting events and introduced to the Savannah Bananas, and glad I watched them. So you've had a few days off. I understand you might have
Yeah,
read a book or done a few things.
I did. I spent a lot of time in northern Vermont in summer. It's very peaceful. There's no internet. It's great. And I read a book on the 1986 Mets, and it was a book written, if you followed the Mets back then, with Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden, if you're our age. It's an easy read. It's really funny. It's not PG. It's probably not even PG-13. So don't go out there and get it for your 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But it was funny as hell. And the stuff that went on back then, with Strawberry and Gooden and Hernandez and Carter and the whole thing. It's the year that they beat the Red Sox and the whole Bill Buckner thing. The stories. You read it and you can't put it down because it's just so funny. They played this playing card game. If you drew a red card, you drank. If you drew a black card, you draw another card. I mean, they were hammered all the time.
That sounds like the 80s, definitely.
Right? Like,
That's
why
the
did we have
80s.
that at Quinnipiac? We weren't smart enough to think of a game like
Yeah.
that, right?
We didn't
Like,
have a deck of cards, right?
they get into the famous Game 6, the Mets and the Red Sox, where the Red Sox go up 5-3 in the 10th at Shea Stadium. There's like half the Mets are in the dugout. Game's over. World Series is over. They're decorating the Red Sox dugout locker room with T-shirts and champagne. And then, of course, that's the famous ball goes through Bill Buckner's leg, and
Yeah.
the Mets come back to win. And now they're trying to quickly tear down, everything that was in the Red Sox locker room before they got back.
I
And,
still wake up at night hearing that Vin Scully call that game, But in all honesty, the Mets those guys were talented. I mean, those guys could play. A lot of talent.
The talent on that team was amazing. And, you read the book and, half of them weren't sober ever, during the season.
Yeah.
But, another really interesting story is in 1980, the Mets had the number one pick in the draft, and it turned out to be Darryl Strawberry, I think most people have heard of. But there was, some discussions about taking an outfielder from San Diego by the name of Billy Beane, who the Mets ended up getting 23rd. Now, Billy Beane is more well known for being the Oakland A's GM.
Yeah.
And if you want to see a great baseball movie, it's called Moneyball, and he was the one that kind of started, the baseball with analytics, and he never made it as a baseball player, but half the Mets scouting department wanted to take him first overall. And so that's a really interesting story. I know you've seen the movie. I've seen the movie Moneyball. It's just a great baseball movie.
Great movie.
It's got Brad Pitt. So it was, I thought that would is, but I highly recommend the book.
Sounds good.
You can get it library probably or Amazon. It's really funny if you remember the Mets those back in those days.
Yep. You had mentioned to me, we've been out for a few days in July 1, why that's important in baseball.
If you're a Met fan, that is a painful day. It's Bobby Bonilla Day. For those that are old enough to remember Bobby, he was a good player. He had a buyout with the Mets in 2000 when the team was owned by Fred Wilpon and Nelson Doubleday, and they thought it was a good idea, instead of paying them the almost $6 million that they owed him, because they were invested with Bernie Madoff.
I know.
Okay. And back then, Bernie told everybody he was getting 25% return. Of course, we find out later in 2008, he wasn't getting any return. It was a giant Ponzi scheme that the Mets were going to pay him pay Bobby Bonilla $1 million a year in deferred compensation. And he's going to get that through 2035. So it's always a painful day. It's a reminder that of this contract, and Shohei Ohtani, the LA Dodger outfielder, has taken a deferred contract as well. And he's deferred, $680 million of his contract between 2034 and 2043. And, we've talked a lot about sports
Yeah.
business and cash flow. They're going to owe him $68 million a year between 2034 and 2043, and, they did it for, we need more money now to help win, but those bills are going to come due.
Yeah.
And he's going to be long gone, and it's just always a lot of money, when you start talking about, these deferred contracts. And
Yeah. So Bonilla's agent back in the day, I mean, that was probably pretty well unheard of back then. But what a stroke of genius on that to structure that deal that way, to keep I read he's going to be paid through age 72 or something like that. So good for him.
it worked out. And obviously when the Mets sold their team, Sterling Equities, that contract follows the team. So,
Yeah.
if somebody's ever going to buy the Dodgers, you're going to be stuck with the 680 million.
Yeah. Let me see what's under the sheets there. Yeah.
That's owed. So yeah, it's and then we finally had the LeBron come to an end while we were out, but I think that story is just getting started.
Just getting started. Just round one.
So for those of you, we've been talking about LeBron should have opted out, become a free agent, come to New York. That didn't happen. We didn't really think it would. He agreed to the second year with the Lakers for $52 million. And the ink's not even dry on the contract, and people are like, he's ready to be traded. There's betting odds apparently of whether he'll even open the season in LA.
Yeah.
He's the face of the league, but Luka Doncic is the face of the Lakers. So
And you have new ownership.
you have new ownership, and so it's going to be really interesting. You hear rumblings every day now a little bit about LeBron. Does he want to be traded? And he's silent. And silence is never good in these situations.
Right.
It's going to be interesting. That's going to be a story to continue to follow. With the salary he's got, there's very few teams that can match up the money wise, because you would need to match up the money in a trade.
Yeah.
So,
but it sounds like the agent's on the phone talking to teams that might have an interest. So it sounds like LeBron is open to the idea. He's open to the concept. He hasn't said that publicly. It sounds like he's open to the concept of moving on, as long as he's getting paid the $52 million. And if it's the right situation, not an easy deal to get done because of the money involved. And
no.
So I'm sure people could be trying, because I think I think he would be receptive to listening, as long as he's getting paid. The right team,
And he has a chance to win,
That's what I mean. The right team, the right situation. Yeah.
I think one of the things we talked about that, like where New York would have made him money, a lot of money would have been, he's got a lifetime contract with Nike. And, coming to New York, I mean, how many pairs of sneakers were these?
Sky's the limit.
Every little kid in New York would have wanted a pair of LeBron sneakers. And
Yep.
he easily could have probably made up the $50 million that he would have had to give up through, quote, compensation, from the league. But I think that would have been a really interesting, if the discussions never happened, discussion is if he went to Nike and said, I may come to New York, take less money, what's it worth to me? What's it worth, to Nike if I now hit this market, and
Sure.
I mean, every little kid would have wanted to, and going from Air Jordans to LeBron sneakers, it would have been a really interesting business decision.
Yeah, there's a lot of avenues from the business side. Once you throw New York into the mix, the marketing, like you said, the branding, the naming, the whole thing. It opens up so many more opportunities for sponsorship and for him. And not that he needs it, obviously, but it is a business, and he's going to look at all of that. And I'm willing to bet that he will not finish out the season with the LA Lakers. I think he'll be moved before the trade deadline. I assume. We'll see. We'll find out.
I agree with you. I mean, look, at this age, he's only going to play 1 or 2 more years, And, it's not like he's going to sell his house in LA or wind down his businesses in LA. This is a short
Yeah.
term move. And, to add the New York market, and I know I'm still pushing New York, even though there's really no signs out there except that Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks has a $50 million contract that you could technically offset. But to add the New York market to your business, um, I mean, you're talking, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars that are
And like
that
you
are
said,
out
it's
there.
not long term. It's less than 24 months from if you started today, start to finish. It's not long term.
And I read an article recently that he's building this humongous mansion, so he doesn't really technically have a home.
You mentioned to me though, you mentioned the Lakers and the numbers.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Was it 10 billion?
Well, so yeah, so there's this, the again, we're not political, but there was a very interesting result in the tax law that passed, and we talked about it when the Celtics were bought, or sold for $6 billion. Is that part of the purchase price that the new owners are paying is subject to a tax write-off over 15 years. And back in January, President Trump had suggested maybe he'll get rid of that there'll be no write-off. And then the Republican House proposed a 50% write-off. And it ended up with the Senate back at it's still 100% write-off. And, we're going to show you a little bit of how much money that is. And, we got a little whiteboard here, and we hope you can follow.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You get the
the
Lakers
Lakers,
10 billion.
the Lakers were purchased. The valuation was 10 billion. Jeannie Buss retained 15% of the team,
Yeah,
so the net purchase price was 8.5 billion.
yeah,
About 90% of that would be considered for tax write-off.
yeah.
So about 7.65 billion over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So your deduction up for over 15 years, each year is about 510 million.
Wow.
And if you put that at the highest rate now, you're about 189 million a year that you're going to save, that the new owners were saved on buying the Lakers. And it's a $2.8 billion savings,
Wow.
over the life that the taxpayers are paying on the sale of this team or the purchase of this team, however you want to look at it. So um, it's real money, and it definitely would have, if it went down to 50% or zero, I think you would have seen a flood on transactions before the end of the year because the new law would have taken effect in 2026. So it's going to keep the valuations higher because, 2.8 billion is, going to be paid by the taxpayer. So instead of paying 8.5,
Yeah.
you're really paying, 5.7 after tax breaks. And
And as huge as those numbers are, when you look at the Celtics now, it's 6 billion, makes them look like a bargain basement.
when the taxpayers are
Yeah,
paying for,
yeah.
a good chunk of this,
Mm-hmm.
so it's real money. And again, we're not taking a position on the law, but
Yeah,
it's real dollars out there, and that's not even including any, state considerations that there may be. Some states allow a similar write-off for state taxes too. So, the valuations are going to probably continue to be high. As we talked about, we're not really sure where all this future money is going to end up coming from. We've talked about a little bit about the ESPN streaming for $30 and a month. We'll be interested to see how that turns out in the fall. The
yeah.
WNBA is going to go through a contract CBA negotiations. I think that's going to be really interesting to follow, because you don't have billions of dollars you're splitting in the WNBA. You have hundreds of millions, but they both want a lot. They've announced three more expansion teams in past history. The expansion fees have gone to the owners because they're selling part of their
Right.
income interest, and yet the players have always wanted a piece of the expansion fee. And so that, again, that'll be interesting to see how that ends up and where that goes. These
Yeah.
are, interesting topics from a business point of view, but, you're going to start, there's going to be some fighting involved. I mean,
It's going to be interesting with the, we talked about it before with the NCAA and, the money there now that some of these collegiate athletes, they'll be better off staying playing for the universities that they're at rather than coming out. No rush to come out if you can get that money at the NCAA level. Why come out and get crushed in the pros, at a rookie salary? Stay in a little longer.
I think there's many cases of, speaking of the WNBA, where that's the truth, and even in the NBA, where you have people coming out that aren't making it right away. They're 18 years old, 19 years old.
They're not physically ready.
They're not physically ready competing against,
The guy you
25,
just
30
mentioned,
year old
LeBron
men.
James. Yeah.
Right. So,
well, I think that wraps up our summer vacation.
yeah, we have to go back to work now.
Yeah. But I think we're just about out of time. So I just wanted to thank everyone. Subscribe, continue to watch, and we'll see you in a week or so. And Ken, good to see you.
Tim, good to see you. Thanks everybody for watching, and I think we have some really good topics coming up this summer, and so we look forward to being together again soon.
Yeah, we do have a guest coming on, I think, in early August. We'll see how that goes. I think everyone will enjoy him. We spoke to him earlier today, and he'll be interesting. So stay tuned, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks everybody. Night, Tim.
Take care, Ken.